that's kind of the whole ideal client piece as well. You know, we're going to pick out our ideal clients because they're the ones that respond to us and we respond to them because we know each other and trust each other and have a familiarity with each other. But yeah, I do really feel people buy from people.
Get ready to capture the essence of your brand in this exciting episode of the Master Your Business podcast. Our guest, the talented photographer, Eva Blake. Eva is joining us today to discuss the power of storytelling in personal brand photography. With her background in marketing, Eva has developed an eye for capturing the perfect shot that truly embodies a brand's essence. In this episode, she'll be sharing her top tips and tricks on how to create a consistent and coherent brand image across all of your platforms. You'll learn how to create fresh, authentic, and eye-catching images that perfectly reflect your brand's unique voice and values. So, whether you're an aspiring photographer, a business owner looking to improve your brand image, or just someone who wants to learn more about the power of storytelling in photography, you won't want to miss this episode of the Master Your Business podcast with the incredible Eva Blake. Just before we get into the show, I would really appreciate it if you could please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or leave a rating on Spotify or whatever platform you're listening to the show on. It's a super way to help the show rank higher so that business owners like you can also discover the podcast. Right, folks, let's dive in. Eva, it's fantastic having you on the show. Please tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be a brand photographer.
Hi, Deirdre. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm Eva Blake. I am a photographer. I haven't always been a photographer. I started my business 4 years ago in personal brand photography. So prior to that, I had a background in marketing where I worked in the corporate world for almost 15 years. And most of my education is business marketing and have an MBA as well. So very much grounded in the business world, and then decided to take a huge leap and follow my then hobby, now job, huge passion of photography. So when I started, I discovered that working with women in business was really the sweet spot for me. I really brought the most value to those types of clients. And here I am now working with women in business all the time, taking lifestyle photography for their businesses.
Well, I can honestly say when I came across your Instagram profile, it just jumped out of my hand in terms of my phone and scrolling, because images that you capture of your clients, they really, they're so clean, they're so pure, and what I would say is they really reflect who the individual lady is in the capacity that, you know, they want to be seen in, right? And
Yeah.
what strikes me is that when I look at a lot of people's websites, they have headshots and not images like this, right? So maybe if you can explain a little bit about exactly what is brand photography and what's the difference between getting some brand photographs and headshots.
Okay, so I think the most important thing, as you know, Deirdre, is we as individual business owners want to stand out in our space, right? We want people to look at us, remember who we are, recognize us, and get a good sense of what we do and why that's better than the next person they're going to come across, right? So that is an awful lot to communicate in, I think, what we have 3 seconds or something now to grab people's attention, which is a desperate state of affairs. But 3 seconds, you have to think about how much you can communicate in that one image that's going to convince that person that you're the choice for them or you're the right supplier for them. So there's so many ways that I do that, and working with women and really getting to understand their story, how they came to be as the business owner that they are, why they do what they do, and what they deliver. And we really try to bring that to life for the client. So instantly in an image that they've landed on, they're absorbing information about you without even consciously looking to find out more about you. And also, as you know, story is so important. We try and create storytelling images because people remember stories. So, you know, if I'm working with a florist, let's get right inside her workshop. Let's see her tools, see how she works, see how she puts things together, see the detail and the passion that's going into the work that she's doing. instead of just a headshot, which tells us very little about what the offering is. Um, so yeah, it's about creating expectations for people and standing out.
So brand photography, it is about storytelling. It's about connecting the individual with the business, the tools of their trade, and portraying that, right? What are the benefits for business owners in terms of getting photographs like that, as opposed to stock images, let's say?
Yeah, well, first of all, you get recognized, you get attention. You get, if you, as you said, my Instagram page jumped out of the phone at you. So that's what you want when people are scrolling. So you need attention to get the recognition and the sales ultimately that you deserve. So first of all, getting that attention. Secondly, you have already started to build a relationship with somebody. I know that sounds strange, but the more that you're sharing, the more trust you're building with people. So the minute they start to get a really good sense of you with authentic, natural imagery that's true to life, that's really showing how you create the product or service that you're delivering to the person, you're building trust. So that's already a really big step forward in terms of closing a sale. Or even getting them to pick up the phone. And the other great thing about imagery is they're shareable. So you can share an image and you can ask people to pass it on or to put it onto their feeds, or you can broaden your network really quickly with imagery. And people will see that far and wide, even outside of your network. So images can be shared, but storytelling images even more so are shared and remembered. So having that kind of brand awareness created without you having to do that much work, relying on your network to help you out. But I mean, in terms of benefits, getting up on a Tuesday morning and deciding to run a competition, you have an absolutely amazing collection of storytelling images to front that competition, to front that offer. It just makes life a hell of a lot easier. And also, if the Irish Times calls you and says, you're going to be on the front page on Sunday, you're ready. You're totally ready. You can just dig in, pick out your favorite images that you created and designed and planned with me that you love and are super proud of. And you can email it off to that editor and feel super confident that you're going to be represented authentically and people are going to see that and it'll feel good.
Amazing. And you're so right, because I've done a photo shoot with you, Eva, and it was incredible because I have hundreds of usable images that I feel comfortable and confident sharing. And I'm not one who likes to be on the other side of a camera. I like to take the pictures as opposed to be in front of the camera. So I really, really totally get where you're coming from. And a lot of listeners, maybe to the show, these are people who have established businesses already, Eva, and they probably already have a website, and maybe they've gotten brand photography done before. When should they look at refreshing their brand photography, or how often is this something that they should do?
Well, I mean, I know with me, my business changes every year. I add something new, I grow some aspect of it, I hone a particular part of the process, and that's what's keeping my business fresh. So it's really important for me to communicate that. And I think every year, every 2 years, whatever you decide, looking at your business, what has changed since your last photography session? What can I make new and fresh and just liven everything up. If you've been sharing the same set of pictures for 2 or 3 years, you're probably going to start to lose some of that traction that you would have got initially from blasting out fresh, new, exciting imagery. So really, it's just adding a little boost of energy to what you're creating with your visual storytelling and making sure it's completely up to date. Like I had a couple of clients, one who got a really cool new pair of glasses and she decided, this is me, this is my look, this is how I want to be seen. I'm going to do a photo shoot with these glasses because she had she'd fully stepped into herself and decided this is what I want to look like, and she'd found the style and the stuff that represented her, so it was worth it.
I
That's a
love
very
that.
simple example, but
Yeah, I love that, and you're so right. I mean, one of the things that prompted me to get to do my photo shoot with you is because I'd had COVID hair when I previously had some images taken during the pandemic.
Okay.
I had a haircut for 5 or 6 months, and I'm like, okay, but my hair is never that long. I need photos that reflect who I am, and so it was just something really
Yeah, yeah,
simple like that. But so let's say, Eva, right? I know, okay, my brand is me personally. I'm the one who shows up.
yeah.
I'm the entrepreneur that if you're looking for mentoring, training, coaching, you get me. But let's say if I'm a
Hmm.
limited company and my company has a business name, what
Yeah.
what level of images or photographs should reflect the people in the company as opposed to what they do?
Yeah, well, I suppose we've all kind of looked at stories of those really big business people in business in the global brands, and the CEOs and the owners of those businesses, like Richard Branson, Elon Musk, all those big guys, they tend to have a larger following than the brand itself. And really, that's because people follow people, people are interested in people. Um, so at the end of the day, and especially in Ireland, like people really buy from people. It's a really old saying, but it's so incredibly true. And often when you work in a saturated market where there's a lot of similar offerings out there, the reason that people choose you is because they like you. Maybe John down the road could offer exactly the same thing, but who do they want to spend their time with? Who do they want to talk to on the phone? And for some reason, it's you connect with them. And, that's kind of the whole ideal client piece as well. We're going to pick out our ideal clients because they're the ones that respond to us and we respond to them because we know each other and trust each other and have a familiarity with each other so often. So I've forgotten the question now, but yeah, I do really feel people buy from people. So um, it's important to communicate your brand and what you do and what your offering is and bring that to life. But if you want to build relationships with people, which you have to do to grow that relationship to ultimately buy, that's a people to people thing.
Yeah, oh, you're so right. And actually, I love your reference to Richard Branson, Elon Musk, and I can't remember who the third person you said was, but I've actually read a statistic about that in the last couple of weeks. And Ronaldo has more
Yeah.
followers on social media on his individual page than every
Yeah.
single one of the UEFA clubs put together. He's got
Wow.
in his own following. So that just
Yeah.
reflects what you just said, right? So it's even though, the clubs are important, it's having your individual images there so that people buy from people. I love that. And
Yeah.
okay, so let's say then if I've got a service and I don't really have tools of the trade, like let's imagine I'm an
Yeah.
accountant or I'm a solicitor, what kind of stories or brand images would be appropriate to use in a professional capacity or setting like that?
Okay. Well, again, it's come back to why do you want people to choose you, right? So I worked with an accountant recently, and the things that were really important to her was obviously as an accountant, you want to be credible and you want to show you have that academic experience and real life experience. So we showed her in her formal clothing, in her beautiful office, with her laptop with a client. It was also important to her was her location, that she was in Wicklow Town and people knew who she was and where she was and that she was local. So we took imagery around the town so that people could see, oh, she's local to me, that space is familiar, she's nearby, that's brilliant. Um, and also that she is friendly, approachable, down to earth, you know, almost smashing stereotypes for certain jobs, you know. And also she niched in certain types of clients. So she worked with agricultural clients, she worked with people in the construction industry. So we made sure to represent those things in her imagery. So, you know, through location and through who she was interacting with.
Mm-hmm.
So she's obviously communicating directly to her ideal client. She's showing them where she's based and she's showing them that she's friendly and approachable and that she's a credible, experienced accountant because they were all the things that made her stand out in her space. So that's how we would have worked with her. So, you know, that kind of translates across
I
business.
love that.
You're the same, Deirdre.
Yeah, I love that. I can picture this accountant out in a field in a pair of wellies.
Yeah, yeah, like she wants them to know, I know your business. I know what's important to farmers. I know where you get the tax breaks. I know, how you operate. All those things, they can instantly say, "Oh God, she knows my business."
Mhm.
So already she's a step in the door. In terms of how they're going to be deciding about who to use or who to work with.
Yeah, that's amazing, Eva. I genuinely, I can picture this accountant out on a construction site
Yeah,
or up on a farm, and so
yeah.
that kind of leads me into a question that I had wanted to ask you anyway. Is where might people take their images and shoots? Do they go to a studio typically, or would they do it in their homes? And some listeners might not be in Ireland, so what kind of suggestions or recommendations would you have for those?
Well, if you have any Italian clients, I'm very happy to go and work with you or listeners. I am very much open to travel. But anyway, jokes aside, every single person I work with is different. I now have my own studio offering coming up in September, so that will cater for anybody who doesn't have a premises, doesn't have a home that they want to work from, and it's really a space that's totally versatile, bright and airy, and you can bring the aesthetic of your brand to the shoot. So whether that's in color, clothing, props, whatever that is. So that's an option that's available, and we use that quite a lot. Um, Also, if you have favorite places, so if it makes sense for you to be in your favorite coffee shop, it could have the brand palette of your brand. If you have a bold orange and blue in your brand, and your local coffee shop has this amazing artwork on the wall that's those colors, why not take advantage of it? Where are you most Also, how do you pitch your brand? Are you a luxury brand? Are you an everyday brand? Location is really key in terms of setting that tone. We could be in the lobby of a five-star hotel because that's where you meet clients, and you're obviously speaking to your ideal clients by showing yourself in that setting. You could be on the beach. It could be a very earthy, nature-based brand. You want to show, whatever it is, close to nature. So we could be in a forest or a beach. Often we work in shared office spaces. So, for example, the likes of the iconic offices in Dublin where they've loads of different buildings, they all have different decor, corporate meeting rooms. One of those might take your fancy and you can hire it for the day. The list goes on. You might have your own shop, your own premises, your own treatment room. I use a lot of yoga studios because they're just really versatile. Your local yoga studio, we could probably achieve a lot in. The list goes on.
It's amazing. Like, I know when I was thinking of my brand photography shoot, I was thinking, no, I'd just go to a studio. I didn't even consider that somebody might come to my home where I work from home and take images of me in my home, which really is
Yeah,
the truest representation of what a life in, a day in the life of Deirdre Martin is when she's working from home
yeah,
all
yeah,
day.
yeah,
So I think it's incredible
yeah,
that probably a lot of people never consider to do things like that, or even in their offices. So if they are going to get images taken at home or in their office space, what types of things would you recommend that they do or bring? What kind of tips would you give them to set
yeah.
themselves up for a really fantastic brand shoot?
Okay. So, first of all, I mean, I'm mostly a natural life photographer. So you will send a video of your space to the photographer, and they will give you a good sense of which spaces in your home are going to work best or photograph best. I would have some key things that you use in your everyday life. So if that's books that you reference, if it's you could be a Reiki master, you could have your treatment bed, you could have essential oils, whatever those props are, that you make sure you have all of those things present. You wear clothing that's absolutely representative of you and your style. There's a couple of small tips around what photographs better. Sometimes certain patterns or colors or things I would say to avoid that may date the pictures a bit too quickly. Keeping it classic tends to give the images more longevity. Have a good breakfast. Get professional hair and makeup done because you will feel a million times better. I highly recommend that. It's so, so important to do everything you can to feel your best on the day. That's really it. Yeah, hairbrush and lippy. comes everywhere, no matter where we go.
That is so true. And definitely, as I said, the first time I had images done and I had my COVID hair, I loved the photos, but I wasn't as comfortable about them because of that COVID hairstyle. It really put me off,
Yeah, yeah,
wearing them, especially after I
yeah,
got
yeah,
my
yeah.
hair. So let's say, okay, if it's a case then, Eva, right, you have somebody, they're taking their brand images now, and it's a case of, okay, you spoke about events or offers or, a competition they might have. How else or where else can they use brand imagery in photography?
Okay, so that's really down to what your business is and where you mostly engage. So what you've done by having these photos is create consistency. So what's really important is that you're putting that consistency across all your platforms. So I only choose to be on two platforms because that's all I have time for really. So Instagram and LinkedIn is where I share a lot of my work and on my website. And then any media opportunities that come my way, or someone lovely like you asks me to be on a podcast, that I have nice photos to send to you of me. But the key is wherever you are is stay consistent. So when you have that really coherent set of brand images, which is what we work to achieve, you could pick any one of those out and they become recognizable as Deirdre Martin's brand, because we have worked really hard to create that coherence between all of the photos, even though they're different, and you know yourself when you see a particular image that it belongs to a certain brand. And that's what we work really hard to do, especially if your face is front and center, but also the style, color, tone, light, all those things have a consistency. So wherever you are engaging, just be consistent.
And let's say, Eva, when choosing a brand photographer, now I'm just going to say here right now, if anybody is looking for a brand photographer and you're in Ireland or Italy, if I is willing to travel, but outside of that, let's say we have listeners in other parts of the world, what should they look for when they're choosing a brand photographer?
Okay, so in the moment on the day, it's quite a intimate experience, but you want to feel really comfortable. You want your photographer to say, I think you should change that, or I think this would look better. You want to trust that your photographer is really on your side and rooting for you to look your absolute best. So that's just a good feeling. I mean, I would advise working with somebody who specializes in personal brand photography. A lot of photographers are wedding photographers, newborn photographers, and then they have brand photography at the end of the list. For me, I think you're way better off working with somebody who does it every day, who has an experience of lots of different types of businesses and brands. Ideally, with a background in marketing and branding, I think that helps a lot. We're probably few and far between. But yeah, try and work with someone who specializes in that space and go with your gut. How do you feel about working with that person? Sometimes people prefer to work with a female photographer for obvious reasons. So yeah, chat to a few photographers and figure out how they work and just get a sense of how you feel interacting with them. You'll probably get a good idea if you be comfortable with them.
And let's say the style that you have, Eva, right? It's really bright and clean and crisp. That's how I describe your style. And I love that. But let's
Yeah.
say I wanted something, my brand, imagine if my brand was something that's a little bit more dark, or,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking like dark colors where things are black and purple in my
Yeah.
brand, or, really funky with like pop out art and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that's what my overall brand kind of looks like and
Yeah.
represents, how again, when if I'm looking for a brand photographer, how do I find someone who can help me portray images that tie in with the rest of my brand?
Yeah. I mean, most photographers are versatile. Just because they put out one type of imagery doesn't mean they can't do others. It just
Hmm.
means they have a personal preference. Um, but it doesn't mean they can't do what you want. So a lot of photographers will spend time with you beforehand, clarifying that vision and figuring out how to bring it to life. So things like clothing and location dictate so much in a photo. So when clothing and location are aligned with your brand, the images are going to come out the way that you want them to come out. So if you're a tattoo artist working in a cave in a bottom floor room in Temple Bar, the images are going to give off that moody, creative vibe, So, I mean, Instagram is amazing. I mean, that's where people are really sharing their everyday work and who they work with, and word of mouth, talk to people. If you see an image somewhere and go, oh my God, that's exactly what I want, like ring up that person and say, who took that image? Or, Ireland is small. I know we're talking to more also global audience, but, ask in your network, look at similar stuff online. Even Pinterest is an amazing resource to find things. So yeah, but don't presume that a photographer can't achieve what you want, because that's not the kind of work they're putting out.
Yeah, and I completely get that, because again, I know that you can create images other than the clean, crisp, bright, and
Yeah,
clean ones that I like. But when I see you sharing those a lot of the time, it might be an assumption that that's what
yeah.
the style of photographs is all the time. So that's great. People shouldn't assume.
I'm sure somewhere along the way people will still recognize it as an Eva Blake photo, but it will be different,
Yeah, and I love that, because definitely you do have your own unique style. And as you say, it could be that that's simply your preference. And
Hmm.
we all have preference about maybe how we do things, but it doesn't mean to say we can't be versatile, which I love. And so
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm so glad I asked you that question.
Yeah.
I have another one that I'd like to just ask about as well. When people are getting brand photography, what are the typical kind of hang ups or fears, or maybe even myths that they have about getting their images taken?
Yeah. Like, I think as a genre, it's still relatively new. A lot of people who have businesses, they don't really know who to call. Like, people know about wedding photographers, they know about press photographers, they know about newborn photographers, but who do you call if you have a business and you need some brand photography done? You might know who to call for a headshot. So I think as personal brand photographers, we still have a lot of work to do in that space. So that's really important. So there's really that unknown. So they have no idea what to expect or where to begin to create it. And then unfortunately, body image, everybody in the world has hang ups about their body. It could be the shape of their nose, it could be a crooked tooth, it could be their body shape, whatever it is. So I also do try and dig that out beforehand and ask people, like, just be honest, what do you not like about yourself in photographs sometimes? We may as well just be really practical about it. Like, I want you to love the photograph at the end. So I personally don't like my profile very much in photographs. I much prefer to be photographed head on. I just think I look better. It's just a personal preference. So I just ask, everybody has something, and I can never predict what it is. It's quite funny, people definitely know when they have a good side or a bad side. And we just go with it. Like, I try and absolutely make sure that you're going to love the pictures at the end. I mean, that's the goal, because you're not going to use them if we don't get to the bottom of that kind of stuff. I think the other myth is that it is not value for money, right? Um, Photography is expensive, or can be expensive, but as an investment for your business, when you think about the return on investment, that you have confidence to get visible. Visibility is critical for any business if they want to succeed. So if you have invested this time and money in creating this coherent collection of photographs, that you and your photographer have worked really hard together to get absolutely right. You've got all the right outfits, colors, light, location, and you have that forever. And you can use that at so many opportunities. And not only is it practical, but it's a real feel good factor if a picture of you that you love ends up in the media, ends up, somewhere cool that's going to attract attention and boost your business. So, you know, try not to think about, oh my God, this is very expensive. Think about it as a really important thing that you're doing for your business.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I kind of see it a little bit like a copywriting and for websites and things. And one of the myths that I'm always trying to bust is that if you hire a web developer and a graphic designer to create your
Yeah.
website, and the three of you are in the room designing this amazing, beautiful, pretty website, it may not necessarily get you any results, because in the same way that you didn't get in the same way that you create something, none of you are actually copywriters. You don't know what words to use to get people to take action to buy your programs, products, or services.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the images. They might be graphic designers and be able to create gorgeous logos and whatnot, gorgeous images. But if those images are not a reflection of you personally, where you're using them and they're showing success and what things look like when you engage with your clients and maybe what your process is like, it's so much. I can't even describe it, Eva.
Yeah, it's like a missing piece of the jigsaw. Yeah, it's like you've put the jigsaw together, but you've left holes. And like, I mean, just the simple act of investing in professional photography shows your clients that you care, that you are a professional business and that you want to portray yourself as sharply and professionally as possible. So putting up phone photographs, it just attracts so much from the brand if you show that you're not that bothered about representing yourself at your absolute best.
It absolutely ties into having a fully defined brand and marketing strategy, is having those images.
Yeah.
And when you have, the right images with the right words on your website and it's laid out in a really effective format, well,
Mhm.
then you are going to eventually get more clients,
Yep.
because that's what it's all about, right? And it's not just on your website, it's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like it takes a lot less to digest a photograph than to read copy. So, if you're communicating a lot of really good stuff through an image, that's going to prompt people to read your copy. Often people, we're lazy or we don't have time or we're moving through things quickly. So the photograph often is the grabber of attention and the copy is what keeps people there.
And just something else when we're talking about that, and we're discussing return on investment, is that for trading online vouchers in Ireland, getting
Mhm.
brand photography is something that can be used as part of that voucher. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Like trading online, it's already been recognized within that how important the photography piece is. That's why it's right there as an expense that you can use this grant for. So I would absolutely recommend that you go for it. It was amazing in lockdown when they gave a 90% trading online voucher because everybody was at home busily getting their businesses online. So it's an amazing time for that kind of work, but it's still really good. It's still 50% now, right? And you can get 50% of photography and website and brand design covered. So yeah, I can help with that too. I've got a lot of questions about trading online and provide you with whatever you need. You need a couple of quotes and stuff like that. So feel free to get in touch for a quote if you still don't know if you can afford it. I'm happy to do that.
Fantastic, Eva. Thanks so much. So, Eva, if we were to wrap up the session and you were to just finish by maybe sharing a few tips, 3 to 5 tips for people, what would you suggest or recommend?
Okay, so it's really important that you already have some good clarity on your brand and the identity of your brand. Sometimes people think it's a bit chicken and egg. I'll get the photos and then I'll think about everything else after that. But it's really good, and I can absolutely help you with that. I spend at least 2 full 1 hour sessions with my clients before getting that clarity around your brand. So, what are your values, your vision, your mission? All of those things that make sure that we're delivering images that are absolutely aligned with your brand. So try and have as much as you can straight when we're planning for your images. And also, it's a lot of fun. We don't have to take it too seriously. Nobody's going to die. Digital photography is very disposable. There's going to be bad shots, good shots. And come along with an open mind. And you'll have all the planning and prep done. You'll have the right clothes picked. We'll have the location. On the day, it's about having fun. You have to trust the professional to get to meet the brief, right? I'll be going in with the brief in my mind. I know that you're not an everyday model. I know you're not used to being in front of the camera. And a huge part of my job is to help you feel calm and relaxed, not feel like you have the camera in your face all the time, and to enjoy yourself. So yeah, there's no reason to be apprehensive whatsoever. Most clients, I always say, I probably said it to you, Georgia, the first pictures are like pancakes. They tend to not be the best ones of the session. And always, always, always the best photographs of the session are the last 20 minutes. Everybody gets really comfortable. Everybody knows what's going on. you, the client, will end up having way more ideas than me as the session goes on and get really into it. It happens every single time. So don't be anxious, don't be worried. And look, you'll never be ready for something like this, I'd say is the last one. Just start before you're ready. It's my absolute favorite saying. Start before you're ready. Just go and do it, because the return that you'll get from having that is such a boost for your brand. You know, it's really cool to be able to say, shout from the rooftops who you are and what you do with these photographs afterwards, even while you're sitting in your pajamas on your couch. I love that about having cool, shiny photos. So, yeah, and be yourself. You are your own superpower, as I say on my website. You are what makes your brand stand out and makes it different from all the other people. So don't be shy about stepping forward and stepping into it.
Amazing. This show has been action packed, myth busting, and all sorts for people to be able to go and get incredible brand imagery to tie in and marketing strategy. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
I'm sure we'll have you back at some point in the
I'll be
future.
delighted to. Thank you.